Hey, it's Jared. In this video, we're going to review a whole bunch of cases for the iPhone 16 Pro. Now, I've got links to all these cases down in the description below, and make sure if you want to jump around to use the timestamps so that you don't have to watch this entire full-length video. And if you want to see individual videos, head on over to the Case channel to check out case-specific videos. And if you can't get enough, check out the Case channel on Instagram as well. So this is the UB Mag case from Supcase, and this case is pretty interesting. First of all, it's transparent on the back except for the magnetic attachment, and it does have built-in magnets to give a nice solid attachment. I mean, that is really a solid attachment to the back of the case. And so this obviously supports wireless charging as well. It provides good protection all the way around the phone. We've got good access to our USB-C port on the bottom. But one of the big things this year is, what are people going to do? What are case companies going to do with the camera control button? Now, the camera control button is capacitive, and on a lot of cases, they just simply notched it out. And that makes it a little bit challenging to use this button sometimes. But this button actually works really well. If I press this and turn this on and bring up the camera, as you can see here, I could swipe back and forth and use camera control. Now, this is almost as good as if I didn't have a case on the phone at all. Obviously, this requires a little bit more of a touch. Like I'm sliding my finger across here, and sometimes it's grabbing and other times it's not. And so it's not as good as if there were no case on the phone at all. But I have to say, like, this is probably one of the best implementations of maintaining camera control functionality that I've seen without having to just simply notch the case out, which I think is just poor usability. So Supcase did a good job by thinking, let's just make this capacitive and allow the camera control button to work even though it's seemingly covered up. So looking at the rest of the case, we've got good protection all the way around. You can see that the edges here are just a bit reinforced, a little bit more material here on the edges. All of the buttons are nice and easily accessible, work really well. You could tell that the action button has a little bit of a texture to it to make it easier to find it. And overall, a nice case. Now, on the front of the phone, you have protection against the screen coming in contact with the table. So a little bit of protection there. If there was debris or something on the table, we wouldn't have to worry about it because there's quite a bit of raised area here. But this case does not like fully protect the phone, so I probably would put a screen protector on my phone just to finish off the protection all the way around. But what's nice about the back of the case is that we could see the color of our phone. And if you went with a more exciting color for your phone, you might want that to shine through, and this Supcase would do that for you. But I do have to warn you, a lot of transparent cases do end up like showing a lot of fingerprints. And most of these cases, while they don't yellow up like they used to, you know, the clear plastic kind of turning yellow on you, I think that probably still is going to happen over time. But my experiences with cases with transparent backs is that you can easily at least get a year or two of use out of them before you start to have those issues. So I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with what Supcase has done here, especially with being able to access the capacitive button still. This is the Beats MagSafe case. Now, I love the fact that Apple is starting to do more stuff with Beats. I always thought Beats was a great brand, and I was bummed when it seemed like for a period of time, Apple hadn't been doing anything with Beats. Now, this case is very smooth and slippery. It's got minimal Beats branding on the side here. You can see we've got the MagSafe on the back. We've got the capacitive button here. And let's just test that MagSafe with the magnet. That is nice and strong. Very strong magnet. Feel safe and secure with that. And obviously, this is going to support MagSafe charging as well. Now, let's test this capacitive button here, because this is a button that's built into the case, and I want to see how well it's going to transfer that capacitive activity. Oh my goodness, I have to say that is really good. That is so smooth. It's almost like there isn't a case on it at all. That is a very good implementation of a capacitive inlay in a case. And I have to say, like, what I don't like a lot of other case manufacturers are doing is they're notching that out, which means you have to kind of get your finger down in there to use that capacitive button. Now, you'll notice that sometimes like it's not super responsive off the get-go, but I mean, once it recognizes my finger is there, I mean, look at how responsive that is to the touch. I think that's great. They obviously did a great job. Beats is Apple's company, and so obviously they're going to test this and probably had a one-up on all the competition by being able to test this on real phones instead of testing it on dummy phones, which I know is what a lot of the manufacturers get. But I have to say, like, aside from this case just being super slippery, I really like it. I wish that they had a grip version of this case, something that had some grip to it. For me, I would probably send this phone flying all the time because I'm setting my phone on my leg or on the couch or something like that, and so they slip around. But if you like that style, definitely a little bit shiny, a little bit reflective. Maybe you can see here as I'm reflecting the light, there it is. It's a little bit reflective, gray in color, but I have to say, like, this case is nice. And being that capacitive button works so well, it has me thinking, am I okay with a little bit of a shinier case? Because that capacitive button just works so good. Now we also have protection around the camera module. It raises up just a little bit higher than that to protect it from coming in contact with surfaces. And then of course, screen down protection. We have a little bit of screen down protection, not a whole lot. So I probably would want to use a screen protector with this case from Beats. And then on the bottom of the case, you could see that they just went with a full cutout all the way around. And this is what a lot of case manufacturers are doing for that capacitive button. So they decided to do that down here, but not with the capacitive button. I don't really mind that at all. It doesn't bother me that it's cut out on the bottom of the phone. I think it fits well into the design. Overall, I really like this case. This is Apple's very own silicone case, and it has a capacitive button in here, which I've also looked at the Beats case, and the Beats MagSafe case has a capacitive button. I have to imagine that the capacitive inlay in the case is going to work really well. Let's actually just test that first. I'm going to go ahead and click once to turn the phone on and click one more time to get to the camera. And let's just swipe around here and see how responsive that is. Now, I have to say, I am impressed because a lot of case manufacturers are just notching this out altogether and not giving us any sort of capacitive button. It's just, we got to dig our finger in there. We have to try and figure it out. But Apple, of course, having a leg up on the competition because this is their phone, can produce a pretty nice case. Now, the silicone case for me has always been a case that I like the texture and the feel of, but getting this case in and out of my pocket all the time can be a bit challenging, especially as the case ages. You know, it just wants to grip onto the fabric, and I mean, it does an okay job. And maybe I'm being a little bit over dramatic there, but I've always been more of a fan of the leather cases that Apple has produced. But the silicone case is really nice. It's very sleek and simple. You can see we've got cutout for the USB-C and of course the speakers, and everything else around here is good. It's just a very simple case. Little bit of a raised edge on the camera module just to protect that from coming in contact with the table. Little bit of a raised edge on the front side of the phone, which for me, I would definitely use a screen protector. But overall, I like this phone. Now, it is MagSafe, of course. It doesn't have the MagSafe design on the back. It's very minimal, simple, very strong magnets on the back of this because there are magnets in the case. And then, of course, magnets in the phone. This holds on nice and tight. And being that it's Apple's case, of course, it's going to support wireless charging. Overall, this is just a nice case. Very simple, plain case, but very nice, sleek design. Now, I'm excited for a case from Bellroy. This is the Mod Phone case and wallet. Now, I'm a fan of Bellroy. I like their bags. They have a lot of great accessories and things that I use in my everyday life, but I've never had a Bellroy phone case. So I'm excited to spend some time with this case, but let's walk around it first. It's a nice leather case. It has a great feel to it. The wallet on the back is magnet and it detaches, so you don't have to carry that with you all the time. You can see it has an alignment slot here as well, so that way it aligns nicely. It isn't going to spin around on you. Of course, if you're wanting to wireless charge or use MagSafe technologies, you're going to have to remove this from the back. And then let's just go ahead and test it with a MagSafe attachment. That attaches nice and strong. Feel very secure about that. And so, of course, wireless charging, any sort of mount that you were going to use, this would work really well. You can see here for the camera control, they went with a cutout. There's no button in here. It's just simply a cutout, and you have access to the button itself on the phone. So let's go ahead and press that down once and press it down again. And let's just see how responsive this is, because now without a button there, you have to kind of dig your finger down in there. And so I have to push a bit harder to use the camera control features. I have to push my finger down in there. It's not hard, but I have to push my finger down in there to use the camera control button and swipe back and forth. And that means really being mindful of where my finger placement is. If I'm trying to shoot some photos or some video and I want to zoom in and out, it's not just simply running my finger over the button, because you can see it's not responding at all unless I really kind of push my finger down in there and then now I'm getting access to that button and it's working. And of course, once the button kind of registers that my finger is there, as long as I maintain that pressure, it's working just fine. But I have to say, like, not having a button there definitely affects the functionality of camera control. Now, as far as the rest of the case, the buttons are super responsive and feel really nice. It is a leather case, and so it's form fit. And on the bottom portion and the top portion, there is some kind of, I guess, harder silicone inlay there as well. And so there's protection on the corners. And then, of course, down at the bottom where you have your USB and your speakers exposed, plenty of room there to get your charger in place. But what I really think is neat is this MagSafe wallet. It flips out from the side, and so you could fit a couple of cards in there, and this, boom, it attaches just like that. Nice little hinge, very simple design, and then it attaches to the back of your phone. I wouldn't mind having this wallet in my pocket from time to time too. Like, this is not bad. It's very simple, very minimal, which is what I typically go for as far as a wallet. And so if I didn't want to have that on the back of my phone, or I needed it off of my phone so that I can charge or use my phone with some other sort of attachment, this being in my pocket is not going to bother me. It's very simple, very slim, and it just attaches like that. And so I have to say, I think Bellroy did a great job. I really wish that there was an actual capacitive button in the case that made it easier for me to use the camera control button, but I don't know. I mean, a lot of cases are not going to come with that because there's challenges there in just producing something that's actually going to work well. And so maybe in the future, we'll see updates to certain cases that might actually come with that functionality. But for now, a lot of cases are simply just going to have a cutout. This is the Pelican Shield carbon fiber case. Now, this case is a lot. It adds a ton of protection to your phone. And to be honest, it's quite a chore to get on your phone as well. But once you have it on, it provides protection all the way around. Obviously, there's no screen protector on this case. So if you want screen protection, I highly recommend putting a screen protector on here as well. But this case also comes with a belt clip. And so I could place the phone in the clip, and that's going to provide some protection as well. Because if I have this clip to my belt, it's going to be facing inward, and anything that comes in contact with the phone is just going to hit the back of the phone, and that's great. And then I could just simply pop the phone out of here as well. What's nice is I can also put the phone in the other direction like so and use this to attach the phone to something. You can see that it props itself up pretty nicely, but I could also clip this onto something as well and do a video call or watch some content on the phone very easily. So I have to say, like, this is a bit much of a case for me, but it provides a ton of protection. I love the carbon fiber inlay on the back. We've got tons of protection all the way around the side. We've got good responsive buttons as well. All of our buttons are working great, but the true test is going to be our camera control button, which is definitely down in there. So let's go ahead and press that button to turn the phone on, press it one more time. And so let's go ahead and try zooming in and out. So I really have to push my finger down in there. And of course, I mean, once I get the feel of it and I get used to the amount of pressure that it's going to take in order to use camera control, it's much better, but that definitely is different. And I have to really think about the placement of my finger there because the button is just so far down in there. I really have to think about it. And even as I go to press to take a photo, I mean, it's a challenge to use it, but I have to say, I'm glad that it still works. It's just going to take a little bit of thinking about it to use that feature. I think it's a lot easier actually just to use the on-screen zoom that we've been used to for a long time, because that does just require a bit of digging down through the case into that button. And I would miss opportunities. It does work, don't get me wrong, but it is a little bit challenging to use that button. Probably would have been a lot better if they had went with some sort of a capacitive button that was inlaid into the case so they could raise that up a little bit and still provide the functionality. But overall, I have to say this case is a lot. It's gonna protect your phone from all of the elements. And if anybody knows about that, it's Pelican, because Pelican produces cases for pretty much everything. And I trust all of my photography equipment to big Pelican cases where when I travel, when I go on an airplane and take my camera equipment through different scenarios in which I want it to be protected, it's always in a Pelican case. The O-Stand Spin from Taurus is an interesting case. Now, I've looked at this case before in the past, but they added something new to the back. Now, there's a round ring that is MagSafe, and it actually rotates now, which is cool because in the past, it hasn't done that. They added that as a new feature, I think, maybe with last year's, I can't really remember. But with that, you can rotate it, and now it becomes a nice kickstand for your phone in pretty much any angle that you want to use it. And I think that's just genius. The fact that this spins. Now, Early on, I thought, oh, this isn't going to be stable. It's going to break or something like that. I've had no issues with using this case on previous models of the phone. Obviously, this is a new case and a new phone, so I haven't tested this one for durability, but my experiences with last year's model is that this case stands the test of time. And it rotates all the way around, snaps right back into place. It's got MagSafe, of course, attaches, and even that can pull off too and come down to any angle, but that's really nice. Very, very strong magnet. I mean, probably one of the strongest magnets on any case that I've looked at so far. Now, as far as the case goes itself, it's a pretty simple case that just protects all the way around, not a super intrusive case by any means. Very minimal Taurus branding. We've got cutouts on the bottom for our port and for our speakers, and you can see we also have a cutout for the capacitive button. Now, the capacitive button is a little bit of a challenge to use in these cutouts, so let's see exactly how it does with this case from Taurus. Now, as I kind of swipe my finger over the button, it's not recognizing it, so I have to really push my finger down in there and get a portion of my finger through the case cutout so that the capacitive button recognizes that my finger is there, and then the zoom works or any other feature that utilizes this. Of course, pressing down the button, not that hard to do at all, so when it comes to taking a picture, it's not going to be an issue. But when using it for zoom, it's a little bit tricky because this is a cutout as opposed to there being a capacitive button inlaid into the case. It's not the end of the world. If you don't find yourself using this feature too much, it's not going to be a problem. I feel like most of us are probably going to use this as a camera shutter button, so it's not going to be that big of an issue. But when it comes to zooming, I'm going to be thinking a lot more about the placement of my finger. And of course, if I'm shooting video and wanting to zoom in and out, it's probably going to affect that a little bit as my finger kind of catches and the connection between my finger and the capacitive button kind of jumps in and out. I mean, so far it seems pretty good, but I mean, if I was trying to do very minimal, I feel like I run into the edge of the case before I would run out of button. And so I'm just not getting as much zoom as I might get just because the case has to be trimmed out to get access to the capacitive button. Overall, though, I really like this case. It's clean, it's simple. And what they did with the kickstand on the back, that's also a magnetic ring and something that you can hold onto your phone with. I mean, it's just a multi-purpose tool on the back of your phone. I think they did a great job. It's a good implementation of something new that you don't see on a lot of other cases. This is the Liquid Air case from SpeedGen. The Liquid Air case is a case that they've been making for phones for many years. It's available for lots of different phone models and now for the iPhone 16 Pro. Now, what I like about this case is the texture. It's a silicone case with a very simple texture on the back, and then it also has a grip texture on the side of the phone, which makes it really nice to hold in the hand. Very nice grip on this case, and I've always loved that about the Liquid Air. It's got a little cutout here so you can attach a lanyard to it if you'd like. You've got good protection around the camera module, and all the buttons are nice and responsive. We've got a little bit of screen down protection here, so with this particular case, I would probably use a screen protector. And then we have a nice big cutout area for the camera control button. Now, what a lot of manufacturers have been doing with their cases is not cutting out enough space for the camera control button, which means you really can't use the entire button as you move your finger across the capacitive button. Let's try this out and see how it responds. Now, of course, that was very easy to get the camera open. I can go all the way across and get a pretty good range of zoom, basically about what I would get if I didn't have the case on at all. And a lot of other cases are limiting the amount of zoom or the amount of movement that you're going to get across that capacitive button because the cutout is so close to the same size as the button. You really have to wedge your finger down in there to try and use that button to its fullest potential. So I love the fact that they did cut this out. Obviously, that's a pretty big cutout, and so that is an exposed area to your phone. But I think for the use of the camera control button, you have to do that. You either have to build in a capacitive button that works with the capacitive button that is the camera control button, or you cut out a much larger notched area so that you can get your finger in there and use that camera control to its fullest potential. Overall, I really like this case. SpeedGen has always done a great job with cases, and the Liquid Air has been a great staple for their brand over the years, and it continues to. And I think it's definitely going to be one of the more popular cases, especially as people's frustrations grow with other cases that didn't give enough room for the camera control button. This is the Taurus Slim Fit case. It's a very slim fitting, hard plastic case for your iPhone 16 Pro. So what I like about this is that it doesn't add much to the phone that doesn't need to be there. It adds protection around the corners. Obviously, there's a raised area for the camera module on the back, and there's ample cutout spacing for everything that we have down on the bottom of the phone as well. The buttons are very responsive, very easy to use, but the camera control button is the true test of cases these days. So let's go ahead and open our phone with the camera control button, and let's do some zooming in and out and just see how well that works. Now, I have to say, this actually works really well, and it probably is mostly due to just how slim the case is. There is not much case there to get in the way. They cut out the case just a bit larger than the button, but the case is so slim that it's not a problem to use that capacitive button. A lot of other cases either chose to barely cut out enough room that you really have to wedge your finger in there, or they just notch the whole thing out and make weird kind of edges that you have to maneuver your finger around in order to use that capacitive button. So I have to say, I think they did a great job there. This case obviously is a very minimal one. It is MagSafe compatible as we attach the magnet to the back of the phone. And of course, wireless charging is going to work on this case, especially considering how slim it is. I would definitely put a screen protector on this phone, because even to maintain the slimness, they slim the edges down. It's raised out a little bit here around the corners to provide some additional protection. But along the edges here, there just is not a lot of protection. And because of how slim the case is as well, it doesn't impede with the actual screen itself, because there's so little case going around the edges. And so I have to say, like, if you're looking for a slim case, it doesn't really get much better than this. It is a little bit slippery. It's a hard plastic case. It's not a grippy case by any means, but it feels good in the hand. I don't feel like it makes the phone any more challenging to hold or to use either. This is the OtterBox Symmetry case, a case that OtterBox has been making for years. It has a nice texture to it, a nice leather feel, and all of the buttons are very responsive and are raised on this case, as you can see. Now, this is a classy looking case. I mean, it's just a nice leather finish to it. It's got good cutouts for a charging port and speakers. But if we go around over here to the capacitive button, they decided they don't want to mess with it at all, and they just notched it out completely. Big notch area in the case for the capacitive button. Now, considering I've tested a lot of cases, and some of them, the case gets in the way, I applaud OtterBox for actually just giving up and trimming out that entire portion and deciding we're not going to mess with that. We don't necessarily know how to get it right yet, so we're just going to notch that out. And there's more than enough room in there. I'm not impeded by any means with this case. I could fully utilize the capacitive button here without running into any issues. They cut out the notch significantly around that, so we don't have to worry about that. And as you can see, things just work really well with that being cut out. So while it's just a giant notch in the side of your case, I think they made a good decision, not necessarily knowing exactly how people are going to use this button, what's going to happen if they did barely just trim out space for that button. So I'm not mad about the fact that there's a big notch in the side of the case, but I do have to say it is kind of funny that they just decided to go with that option. This case has good protection for the camera module, a little bit of protection for the screen down. Definitely would use a screen protector with this case just to add further protection against screen down contact with anything. But the OtterBox Symmetry case has always been just a really nice case. It feels good. It has a nice texture to it. And I know it's going to protect my phone because it's a case from OtterBox, and they've been doing a great job for a long time. So I have to say, very nice case. OtterBox Symmetry case, definitely a staple, been around for a while, tested and true, and a great overall case. The Presidio 2 grip case from Speck is one of my favorite cases. I have always loved this case. I love the grip of the case. The case feels great in the hand and provides a ton of protection for the phone. I have purchased this case for pretty much every phone that I've owned since the Presidio 2 grip came out, and prior to that I was purchasing the earlier model that had the raised grip. Even though those would peel off after some time, I still just absolutely loved it. And so the Speck case is great. It has a notch here that aligns with their different accessories, such as their MagSafe wallets and all of that stuff that they have that attaches to the back. Now, they decided to do something a little bit new this year, which is transition the camera module, the raised area for the camera module, down with a little bit of a slope. And as you can see here, there's a little bit of unprotected camera module around this edge. It's not going to cause a problem. It's just something that I noticed, and I'm actually not mad about it because there doesn't need to be any sort of raised edge right here. Really, you don't even need it on all angles. And they decided, let's just not do that. Let's taper that down and give a nice flush edge around the bottom, which I think is actually a great design choice, and it just looks really good. Spec always has their minimal branding as well. The buttons are always responsive on all of their cases. And one of the things that I absolutely love about their case is how you get the case off. There's like this area here in the corner that as you press, it just spreads, and it makes it really easy to slip the case on and off, but then also for the case to be secure on the phone. I love that. I love the plastic on the corners. It provides a little bit of extra protection, but mostly this case just has always been a case that just feels great to hold. Lots of grip. And so I don't feel like I'm ever going to launch my phone as I'm moving my phone around or as I'm holding it and taking photos and all of that stuff. Actually, like thinking about photos, let's launch that camera control button, because as you can see, we've got a pretty big notch here in the case. I want to see how well this is going to work. Now, as I place my finger on the camera control button, without putting much pressure down, I'm not getting anything. As you can see, it's not doing anything. I have to really kind of press my finger down in there in order to zoom. And if I press too hard, then I'm going to take a picture. So you have to find kind of that happy medium of it recognizing your fingers there so that you can do the zoom function or whatever other camera control function that you're going to use, because you can obviously use a lot of different features there, but it's going to take a little bit of getting used to. And if I'm holding my phone and taking photos and wanting to use the zoom feature, I'm really going to have to think about the placement of my finger. Now, once I recognize where that is, it works really well. No problems there at all, but it's definitely not going to be as easy as if you didn't have a case on there at all. But that's pretty much the situation with any case that you put on your phone, is that something is going to be impeded a little bit, but you're adding protection to your phone. I think Spec did a great job with just little subtle changes this year with the protection around the camera module here. Overall, just a beautifully designed case, very simple, very grippy. I have to say this is probably going to be the case that's on my phone, just simply because it's such a nice case. And camera control works. You just have to spend a little bit of time getting used to it. It's also a MagSafe compatible case, got really strong magnets in it, and wireless charging is going to work well also. Now, this is the Armor Box case from iBlazon, and it provides so much protection that you even get a complete door that covers up your cameras altogether. So you have to pop this door open to get access to your cameras. It's got a nice texture in there just to protect against anything hard coming against the lenses on your camera. So I love that, the fact that there's that sort of protection there. And then of course you could use this as a little bit of a kickstand also if you wanted to, and use it at pretty much any angle to get different angles of view with that kickstand. And so not a bad feature, definitely very sturdy. I feel like this will take a beating and it'll last a long time because I'm torquing on it pretty good and it's not causing any problems to it at all. And then it just snaps right into place. We have a cover on the USB-C, which is great because these days, wireless charging our phones all the time. This is going to keep that USB door nice and clean as it keeps it protected from all of the elements. And then we've got cutouts for our speakers, but that is a pretty deep cutout for the speakers. And so that sound is probably going to be affected a little bit by having to travel outside of that case. But all the added protection, including a built-in screen protector, because this is a two-piece case. Case comes out and then you put the phone in the inner portion and put them back together, fit the outer portion of the case all the way back around, and then you have full wraparound protection on this case. Now there's a ton of grip on this case as well. As you can see, the corners are reinforced, the sides have a ton of grip, and overall this case looks like it's out of a sci-fi movie, like it's out of a spaceship or something, because it's just got so much going on as far as the design and everything. It's also MagSafe, so we can attach magnet to that, and very strong magnet, and it supports wireless charging as well. Overall, a very great case, but one thing that they have here is a built-in capacitive button. This capacitive button works with the camera control capacitive button. And so let's go ahead and open up our camera door here, which is something that I typically don't have to do with most of my cases, but I like that it's there. And we'll press down to turn on our camera. And let's just see how responsive this is. Now, what I love is just how responsive this button is. It's not as good as Apple's cases. Apple has a leg up on the competition because the cases that they build, they could test with their phones, whereas I'm sure iBlazon and these other companies just got a dummy phone to build their cases off of. And so figuring out this capacitive technology, I mean, I don't know if they got actual working phones ahead of time to test this. So this button, it's not the most responsive, but it's one of the more responsive buttons, and it works relatively well considering there's so much going on with this case as far as protection goes. So if your phone is going to be out in the elements a lot, a case that provides full protection all the way around, including a built-in screen protector like this, is going to be a must-have. And as you can see, it does not affect the ability to swipe and scroll and move around the screen. Everything works really well, just as you would expect. So the ArborBox case is a total protection case for your phone. This is the Unicorn Beetle Pro from Supcase, and it is an all-around protection case for your iPhone 16 Pro. Now, it's MagSafe compatible. As you can see, we could attach the magnet to the back, but there's also a built-in kickstand that pops up. And what I love about this is just the ability to use it as a kickstand. I mean, and then it goes and hides and snaps right into place. And while there are other cases that have a ring like this, what I like about this one is that it latches into place. And so I'm not worried about it going anywhere or being in the way. If I need it, I just simply pop it out and then it is there, and it is a kickstand. Very simple. But it's also MagSafe, and because of that, this case also supports wireless charging through MagSafe also. But this case also has a built-in screen protector on the front, so it has protection all the way around from the elements. It has a little cutout there for the camera. We've got a cover for our USB-C as well to protect that and keeping it clean. We also have a lanyard attachment here, and overall just a nice case with some grip on the side, and otherwise rather minimal in design, not being too intrusive. But it also comes with this belt clip attachment, and we could attach the phone in this way in order to protect the screen even more by just facing it inward towards the belt clip. And then of course we could flip this around also and put in the phone in this direction, and even use this to clip it to something. So I could clip this to my belt, I could clip this to pretty much anything, and then you could view content, you could do whatever. So there's dual purpose there besides it just being a belt clip. And then of course you just set that aside. You don't even have to have that with you all the time. Now, there is a big cutout for the capacitive camera control button. So we're going to test that out. I'll press this down and press it again to open the camera. I mean, it's a bit of a bigger case to hold on to. I mean, I'm imagining this case on an iPhone 16 Pro Max. It would be a lot to hold on to, but you got to get your finger down in there into the camera control button in order to use it. It's just a lot. I mean, I can't hold the phone like this and reach the button. I'm going to have to hold the phone up here and use the camera control button in this way. And that's going to be the situation on pretty much any case that has a bit of protection to it. You're going to have to sacrifice a little bit there. The usability of the camera control button is a little bit trickier. And so if I'm up here trying to take a picture, I can't just hold my phone like this. I'm going to have to hold my phone in this way and use the camera control button and swipe and do my zooming and stuff that way. Obviously, taking a picture, I can just hold it like this and boom, press the button and take a picture. That's not as challenging. But if I want to swipe and use camera control, I'm really going to have to think through how I hold my phone with this case on it, just because there's so much there. Now, what would have been nice on this case is a capacitive button inlay, so that way we wouldn't have to reach so far down in there. But I do think they did a good job of making sure that there's enough contour there so that you can use the camera control button efficiently. If you're looking for full protection around your whole entire phone, then you can't really do much better than the UB Pro case from Supcase. This is the Fusion X case from Ringke, and it's got a neat design to it, as you can see on the back of the case here. It's got, I guess, maybe kind of like a midnight camo type of design. You can see the Apple logo through it, which is nice. It's got a little bit of a texture to the back of it, and a texture on the side of the case as well. You can see there's reinforced areas around the corners, and the buttons are very pronounced and easy to access. Overall, I like this case. It's got fantastic protection around the camera module, as you can see, fully wrapped around every single aspect of the camera module, which is great. Good protection on the bottom of the phone as well. But let's test out that capacitive button cutout that they have chosen to go with on this case. Actually works pretty well. This case is rather thin on the sides, and so there's not much that you have to reach for in order to do some zooming and utilize that capacitive button. Obviously, it's going to be easy to press that button down and take a picture, but as far as zooming, some cases just don't work that well with how they designed that cutout. But this one does a great job I think this case is rather simple, but what I really like about it is that the phone sits flat on the table. You can see there's no rock to the case at all. They opted to add kind of a raised area here to provide something to offset the fact that there's this giant camera module over on this one side, and most cases just have nothing over there. And so the fact that this sits nice and flat on the table is ever so satisfying, because most other cases, things are just going to rock like crazy and your phone's not going to sit nice and flat. There's a little bit of protection. I mean, on the sides, you can see it's trimmed out on the sides, so that way your fingers don't have to reach all the way around a whole lot of case. And there's more protection on the upper and the lower portions here. I definitely would end up using a screen protector here, just because since there is no protection across the case here on the side, I would want that screen protector to be the first point of impact if my phone was to go face down and came in contact with anything. Overall, I think this is a great design. You'll definitely want to check and find a style that fits best for you. But as far as the Fusion X goes, I think they did a great job with this case. Very unique look. The camera control button works and it sits flat. This is the Fusion Bold case from Ringke, and it is bold because it shows off the entire back end of your phone. And I love that, because if you went with a more interesting color choice than I did for your phone, you can see the entire back of the phone, including that beautiful Apple logo as well. It's got good protection all the way around the camera module. It's got micro grip along the side, so good protection there. A pretty decent case, very minimal really, but a decent case. And it's got good cutouts at the bottom for charging and for the speakers. It's got a trimmed out area along the side, so we've got raised areas on the top and the bottom of the case, trimmed out on the side, so that way you don't have a whole lot of case getting in your way. But I would put a screen protector on this, because there isn't anything there to protect kind of if something comes in from the side or you drop your phone and it hits on that side. I would rather have a screen protector there just to protect and be the first point of impact that this case would not provide protection from. But overall, I do really like the case because of its simplicity. Let's try out that camera control cutout. That button works very easily. I think the zooming works really nice too. They cut that out wide enough that your fingertip gets in there and it works as far as the camera control button goes. I don't have any issues there. And as I double tap to get access to the settings, it recognizes that I'm not accidentally taking a picture, and then I could return to zooming. And so I have to say, I think they did a good job with the cutout there. Definitely enough room for it, and not so much in the way that it makes it challenging to use that camera control module. So other than that, I think this is a very nice clean case. And you would think that it would be a fingerprint magnet, but as I'm like putting my fingerprints all over the back of the phone, I'm not really seeing the fingerprints. Like, it's doing a good job at rejecting the oils from my fingerprints, and I definitely appreciate that about this case, because if you're going to go and make a bold statement with your phone case and say, here's the whole back of my phone and there's transparency on the back, typically this ends up being a fingerprint magnet, and so I think they did a good job with that. And overall, a decent case, the Fusion Bold from Ringke. This is the Onyx case from Ringke, and it is a slim protection case with a bit of a texture on the back. And as you can see, it's got full wraparound protection for the entire camera module, just cutting out where it needs to be cut out. It's got the micro texture on the side for a little bit of grip, good cutouts for the camera control module, and very responsive buttons. The bottom, we've got cutouts for the USB-C and the speakers. That looks good. And overall, a very simple case, a little bit of reinforced edges on the corners. We've got the trimmed sides, so that way we don't have a bunch of extra case wrapping around. But because of that, I would definitely put a screen protector on the phone just to provide additional protection against side impact. But overall, I like it. Let's see how well they did with this particular model on the camera module cutout. So we press the button to enable the camera, and we'll just go ahead and swipe for zoom and kind of soft double tap to get to the camera settings and tap back to get to zoom. All of that is working really well. And as I hold the phone up into more of a photo taking position, the camera control works really well. So I think they did a great job with trimming that out and not making the case too thick, which then would make it a little bit more challenging to use camera control. This is the Fusion magnetic case from Ringke, and it's a completely see-through clear case with obvious MagSafe on the back, so we'll test that out. Feels really strong and secure. I mean, that's actually a really solid magnet there. Even rotating this around is much harder than on a lot of the other phone cases that I have reviewed. And so very strong magnets in this Fusion case from Ringke. I personally am not a fan of completely clear cases, but I know for those that want a case to protect their phone, but they don't want to miss out on just seeing the color and style of the phone, it's a great option. And being these days that these types of cases are not fingerprint magnets and they don't yellow up like they used to, they're definitely much better cases. On the back, we have kind of a soft, smooth texture, and then on the sides, we have a little bit more of a silicone kind of rubbery texture that helps with the grip of the phone and holding onto your phone nicely. When we look at the front of the phone, we've got decent protection all the way around. You can see there's kind of some air pockets in here, definitely adding protection around the corners. Just like most of the other Ringke cases, it's trimmed down along the sides. This one really far. It starts to taper down right about here, and then it picks back up all the way down here. And so the case is not going to get in your way, especially if you're swiping from sides to side, trying to access things on your phone. The case just gets out of the way, which I really like about it. Now let's try that camera control. Let's initiate camera and turn that on and just see how the camera control button works as we swipe and try to slightly double tap to get to camera settings and then go back to zoom. Definitely really responsive. I think a lot of case manufacturers are trying to figure out what's the best way to allow this to work without getting in the way. I think Ringke's done a good job of figuring out where to trim and how much space to leave in there. So overall, I do really like this case, even though I'm not a super fan of complete clear transparent cases. I think they did a great job with this one, especially with how strong that magnet is on the back. A lot of times now I'm using MagSafe stuff, not even just for wireless charging, but for shooting video and stuff like that. And the stronger the magnet on the back of the phone, the better, because I'm going to feel more secure about my phone being attached to things. And so I think Ringke did a great job with just a super strong magnet on the back of this case. And so whether I'm charging on a MagSafe charger or I'm using a MagSafe accessory, I'm going to feel pretty safe and secure there. All right, so that was a lot of cases. If you made it all the way to the end, thanks for sticking with me. Definitely check out all the links in the description below to all of the cases that we looked at so you can see the different color options and pricing and all of that good stuff. Also, if you want to be notified when I put out new stuff, sometimes I even do giveaways, you're going to want to sign up for my newsletter, and that's linked down in the description below also. And hey, if you're still here, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you back in another one soon. Take care.